Hey everyone, Hayk here. Welcome to the Power of Mindset podcast, episode number 7. With this episode, I've got a message I want to share with you through a story. And the story is from an experiment in 1950s. Dr. Richter from Harvard ran a study with rats and water. So he would actually put rats in a pool of water and to observe how long will these rats swim before they start sinking. And they were swimming about 10 to 15 minutes. And right before the rats would swim, Dr. Richter would pull the rat out, dry him up, leave him out for about 10, 15 minutes and put him back in the pool again. Now he was observing, difference between first and second rounds of rats being placed in the water. And this experiment had results that nobody could have predicted. The first round, rats would swim 10 to 15 minutes. Second time, if anybody can guess, I'll give it a 2-second awkward silence. They would swim for 60 hours. Now, again, what happened with this experiment? What was the conclusion? Why was this even happening? Well, when Dr. Richter started going back and thinking about behavior, right? And if you think about many ways, animals and human beings have very similar instinct-like similar traits to the way we function. And the only explanation they had as far as why the rats who only swam 10 to 15 minutes to now 60 hours was the one amazing word that we all need to practice more of and have more of in our life is hope. When you are given hope that you're going to be rescued, you just tend to do more. As in, you're capable so much more. These rats were about giving up. They're about to die. They assume now somebody's going to come out and pull them out. Let's keep swimming. And why is that an important message that I wanted to share with you on this podcast episode? In reality, most of us could be stuck certain places in our life, whether if it's going to be within a relationship, whether if it's going to be within, the business or the fitness. And right now I'm actually kind of losing hope in the endurance sport because I've had injury after injury after injury. Last year, I had a perfect race season. Every race I entered was a personal best. Every race I entered, things were just flawless. For any of you that have done a triathlon, it's really hard to have a perfect race because you've got the swimming gear. Something can go wrong with the goggles or the swimsuit. Something can go wrong with the bike, transition area. You can get a flat tire, your chain can rip. You can have nutrition go south and your body just cramps, which I actually had happen before. But last year, everything between the marathons, half marathons, Spartan races, Ironman 70.3s, I got personal best on almost every single one of them. I qualified for Boston. I did sub 5 hours on Ironman 70.3. And this year, it's complete opposite. It's like I'm losing hope and thinking I'm going to have a good race. This year, my body failed during Boston. I canceled nationals. I didn't sign up for any new races. And this year's goal was not to get in shape, because often I would actually end my season September, October, end of a year. I would kind of like take some time off, get back in, and then try to get back in shape. Well, my goal was to maintain. So I wanted to stay in shape so I can just sign up for a bunch of last minute races this year. And unfortunately, during Boston, my knee got really bad. I limped most of that race. And I actually had an episode talked about that. My nutrition went south. Why? Because I decided to take my team with me. My family was with me. I think we walked too much, too many outings, too much bad food. So my body just was not intaking the electrolytes properly. It was an agonizing finish, but thankfully I did. I had to cancel nationals because my knee was really bad after Boston. I canceled another triathlon, and in about a week, I have Ironman 70.3 Maple Valley. Knee's okay. I ended up hurting my Achilles tendon. I had back issue a few weeks ago, which led me to cancel another race. So I was losing hope, but in reality, it's like practice what you preach, Hayk. You talk about hope to people, then why am I not taking my own advice? In reality, it's really hard to take our own advice. Why? Because we're emotional beings. Human beings are very emotional. It's very hard for us to think 2 plus 2 is 4 when we're so emotional. But, well, what about the size of this apple compared to that apple? It's not going to be even. What is the color of the apple? And we just complicate things, right? So I think I'm overcomplicating things. And yes, last year was perfect when it comes to personal best and the race is going as planned. This year, they're not, but it's learning lessons, right? So I'm thinking about hope as in, I just need to keep swimming, right? Something's going to happen. And I also want to give hope to a lot of people with maybe relationship issues out there who are listening to this episode. The best marriages, long-term relationships with friends or family aren't the ones that are perfect. Often they're the ones who are imperfect, but the couples took a step back and did what they could to make sure they lived through the difficulties and they solved the problems together. And too many people are abandoning the problem. As in, you know what? I give up, I sink. But if you have hope that it's going to work itself out, which 99% of the time it does, yeah, in 1% of cases, I have seen issues where like you can't fix that. Like that person's a murderer or that person is like purely evil. They went to jail. But majority things that fall apart, whether if it's a relationship within a business, marriage, I've seen, it's usually stuff that maybe one more hopeful conversation, one more hopeful, let's take a walk together, one more hopeful phone call would have actually hit the snooze button, which would have hit to more hopes and to more, and then it would have fixed an issue, right? And hopefulness is a big piece to hiring. And I want to dedicate this episode actually to hiring because having the right people in my business changed my life. And I would say I have some of the best talent in the country. I've had some records within this office from my team. I didn't do the work. They did the work. I'm just got lucky enough to get them. But it's like, why am I continuously getting lucky? Well, I'm also a big believer that if you have a good system and you marry it with the right talent, you have amazing results. And that's one thing I do try to control the system, but the talent is all the team. And I am more hopeful in people. I do believe in people more than an average person. I give up on people less quickly than most. Right? I would have one-on-ones with somebody who I'm frustrated with. I would forgive more often. Yeah, people do take more advantage of me. And my team has said, Hayk, you're too kind, you're too forgiving, you don't micromanage. But the very few negative cases have happened, I've got an abundance of great relationships within the business. And again, hiring has changed that for me when I got the right people in the office. And, there's a two quick sentences I exchanged with Vartan before I hopped in the back here to record this episode. And I asked him, what do you think is the most important thing in hiring? And one of the things he said is like, it's a very important to always keep hiring. And that's a piece I want to portray to anybody who's in a manager's position or in a hiring position, small business, always be hiring. Why? Well, if you are hiring when you're desperate, you're going to hear what you want to hear, listen to what you want to listen to, because you're desperately trying to hire somebody. You're going to make a decision that will result into a mistake. But when you are hiring always, as in, I don't need anybody right now within my business, and you're still looking, right? You're still flirting with good candidates. You could be more selective. You can give them more difficult tasks to accomplish to see whether they want this bad enough. And you can find better talent. And I can tell you my best talents come to me when I wasn't looking. My best talent came to me when I was being very selective. And to this date, I always tell business owners, hire when you're not looking. And if you're looking, be very careful because you're going to love everyone. Somebody has a heart rate, all of a sudden, oh, you're hired. You can actually breathe. You do not want that. And there's a acronym I'll share about a hiring secret acronym. Not really a secret, but I call it the PDCC factor, because typically for those who do look at resumes and who do find the right people and you're continuously interviewing, you want to disqualify lots of candidates because it can be a big spend of your time, right? So, and unfortunately, in small business world, we don't have HR to do all this for us. Hopefully, you can build your business up what you can. I got a lot of support right now. But when you are the producer, when you are opening and closing, you do a million things as a small business owner, it's really hard to find time to go through all the resumes. So one point I had to get really good at quickly disqualifying. So I'm not having 20 interviews a week. I'm having maybe one or two. And I came up with this 4-letter acronym, PDCC. P as in positivity, D as in drive, C as in coachability, C as in competitiveness. And that's a 4-letter acronym I use to disqualify candidates over the phone. So whenever I do get a candidate on the line, and I quickly want to see whether I should spend time talking to them because 10, 20 minutes matters. Am I going to spend time buying them coffee? Or am I just going to get them off the phone? I usually would say, hey, look, before we move forward, first of all, I saw that you're applying for a job. Thank you for applying for the opening we have. I just have a quick question, a couple of quick questions. Is this a good time? Yes. On a scale of 1 to 10, can you rank yourself on how positive you are? And I'm actually, at this point, I just shut up and listen. Their response, are they worried? Pitch, tone, what typically your customer want to hear, right? So you're listening now as a customer. And, on a scale of 1 to 10. And some people don't even answer the question, which I'm like, you didn't hear the question. So you have difficulties listening. And how are you going to listen to a complaining customer if you cannot listen to a basic answer? And if somebody's like a 3, I'm like, well, why are you so 3? Well, life is tough, is negative, and yada, yada. If I don't hear like an 8, 9, or a 10, I'm just going to cut that conversation. Be like, okay, well, thank you. If I don't get back to you by tomorrow, that means I give the position to somebody else. I will literally cut off. I don't have time. I used to have time, and I realized quickly in business, I'm doing disservice to them by keeping them on the line because I'm just wasting their time too, and my valuable time. So I need to move on to somebody else who's waiting. How driven are you on a scale of 1 to 10? I've had people say, I just got my driver's license. As in, when I said, how driven are you from 1 to 10, they thought I was asking them about their driver's license. It's hilarious. Uh, that's a conversation you cut off. How coachable are you? It's very important to ask that question. And how competitive are you? And I thought those four really relate to our sales insurance industry in an environment where it's also a lot of complaints. Like our phone doesn't ring in our office because somebody's calling to buy us flowers to give us compliments. Typically, there's an issue, right? That's how most businesses are. Um, I think it's important to be positive because I am. I think it's important to be driven because I am. And I think it's important to be coachable, competitive because I am. And I was a good investment within the business. So if I was looking to replicate myself and attract my own type, I just came up with those quick 4 questions. And if I hear 8, 9, 10, I like the way they sound, I get them in, talk to them, I buy them coffee, I ask a lot of questions. And if that goes well, if I have a good time, if I don't have a good time with somebody over coffee, I'm fairly a fun person. I don't hire them if I'm not having a good time. Why? Because if we didn't have a good time connecting, it's their fault, not mine. I want them to smile. I want them to be talkative. I want them to be positive, right? And then if that goes well, I have my team interview. Why? Because me liking somebody is only half the picture. If I tell candidates often that it's not about you, it's about you with others. And if you cannot get along with my team or click with my team, I mean, you're spending your time with them. My team is going to be training you a lot of the things, right? So if I can't plug you into the environment where environment's going to accept you, I'm doing a poor job as a leader. So I make sure my team interviews too. And if my let's say our Kirkland office manager and team members see them, and I typically make candidates wait for a couple of minutes in the lobby so they can kind of interact with them. Sometimes they're like, "Hayk, please do not hire that person." I'm like, "Why?" And if they give me a good reason, I will not. But if they're like, "I like this person," and realistically, you really don't know who you're hiring until you put their cheeks in the seat and just watch, right? So team likes him. I like to bring him in maybe for a couple of days to make some calls, take some messages, see how quickly they pick up things. But in reality, you really don't know, right? So they check the box on the first phone call. They check the box on I had a good time with them over coffee. Team like them. I give them a mission impossible. I call the step. Mission impossible is in our businesses. You are required to have an insurance license. You know, I hear some realtors do the same thing with real estate license. Some do the same thing with the loan officers, how to get their like a mortgage license or whatever kind of financing they're into. Stockbrokers make them get their Series 7 license. I make them go get their insurance license. There's 2 licenses. I show them the website. I'm like, independent. I want to see how independent you are and how good you're working. If you really want this job, and I prescribe, I describe what the team is doing, and I share some pay stuff and share some, how we do our team meetings and the records we're setting and who doesn't want to be on a winning team, right? So if that doesn't motivate them to go get their license, come back, great. I just disqualify the poor candidate. But if I say, go get your license, come back, and also build me a big list of people that are interested to do business with us. We're not selling vacuum cleaners or energy drinks here. We're literally merging people's money from other insurance companies and hopefully upgrading their coverage and giving them a better plan. So it's money that's already being spent. Can you help find those people? And if they come back with a list of like few people and they text me, I can't get a hold of anybody, nobody wants to respond to me, it just tells me if their own family and friends don't trust them, my customers will not trust them. So also a great way to disqualify people in our business. And that being said, 90-day offer, right? I'm very honest with team members. My goal is to fire you within 90 days or for you to fire me within 90 days. In reality, I'm not just hiring you to solve a production or service problem. You're also hiring me to solve a problem for you, which is you want a career. And if I can't solve that problem for you, well, you made a bad decision too. So let's look at this holistically and realistically. If this is not going anywhere within 90 days, I think you'll know the answer way before that, and so will I. And I can tell you how much I love having this 90-day conversation where sometimes they're doing amazing 2 months in, we kind of forget about it. 90-day comes up. Is my 90-day review coming up? And I will have a 30, 60, 90-day review with candidates. The good ones, it's amazing. And the bad ones, almost like they're avoiding it. The good ones always come to me. So when is it? The bad ones, they just don't want to have it. And when I say bad ones, not that it's bad people. It's just some people, quite frankly, I found it to be lazy. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to make the calls. They don't like the rejections from customers. They don't like the complaining client. They don't want to show up early because that's the culture in my office. My team shows up early. They stay late often. And you really don't have to. But if that's what you want to do, well, welcome to life. Anything that life throws at you, the habits you form about doing more than you expected, well, you're going to have more than expected results. I never thought I would have the life I have today, but I've also have been in the habit of doing more than I'm required, whether if it's marriage or training or business. The more you do, the more you have. But as simple as that sounds, most people want to do the least amount possible. There's a term called quiet quitting, as in I'll just do barely enough not to get fired, right? So, and when you observe people who work that way, look at their personal lives, very similar. So the more you can get to know somebody on personal level, their relationship with their siblings and friends and their parents, if it sounds like they have a mediocre life, the way they train, the way they work out, or that's all they do and they have nothing else. If you're in a relationship-based business, you really want somebody who is into fitness and has got good relationships going on. And that's a piece I really spend a lot of time getting to know people when they're busy on weekends because they're getting a lot of invites and they're busy bees with relationships. Their circles of influence are large. They know people. Those do really well. And the weirdos don't, unfortunately don't. And I'm not saying they're bad people. It's this business we're in is for social people. It's for positive people. It's for people who want to do more with their life. And it's not the case for everyone, I've come to learn. So that being said, my message with this podcast is if you're running an organization or a business, whatever it is, you want your job to get better, hire better. The better people you bring in within your organization, the better you do. And the worst people you bring in, if they're staying, that's your fault. But if they're leaving, congrats. You keep filtering through until you find quality people. But in reality, go back and focus on yourself because you do, in long term, in the long run, attract what you are, not what you want. So sometimes ask the question, this is the real question when you look in the mirror, the person in the mirror. Are you really practicing what you're preaching? Are you staying positive? Are you doing the right things? Because the most important person you cannot lie to is yourself. And when you do keep yourself accountable and do the right things and do the uncomfortable and forgive and you're kind and you do more than you're required, it's only a matter of time until you surround yourself with people like that. Your team becomes like that. And you're off to set records and change lives. And one of the greatest things I've learned that bring me more joy that I never thought 10 years ago I can say this. Now I'm saying it today. Best joy I get in business is I get to help people develop careers. And I get more joy knowing my team does well than often a paycheck. Cheers. Until next time.